Section 8.6, solve rational equations. In this section, you will solve equations which involve rational expressions that have fractions with binomials or polynomials. This is part of standard 7.0, and there are 6 questions on the CST. Let's go through example number 1. If you notice, in this case, we have a fraction equal to a fraction. This is called a proportion, and we can just use the method of cross multiply to easily solve this equation. So we multiply the 2, and the 2x minus 5 is equal to 2 multiplied by x minus 1. We use the distributive property and then solve the equation. Distributive property, the 2. Distribute the 2. We have 4x minus 10 is equal to 2x minus 2. I'm not going to draw the line. I'm going to minus 2x on both sides. That will give me 2x minus 10 is equal to negative 2. I'm going to plus 10 on both sides. That gives me 2x is equal to 8. Divided by 2, x is equal to 4. Now, we do have something that's called a restriction. We cannot have the denominator be a 0. So we have x minus 1 cannot be equal to 0. That's for the first one. Now let's just solve for x. If we move that 1 to the other side or add 1 on both sides, x cannot be equal to 1. In this case, it's not a problem. The other restriction is from the other fractions. We have 2x minus 5 cannot be equal to 0. The denominator cannot be 0. Let's go and solve for x just to determine what is the value of x that will make this invalid or undefined. Add 5 on both sides. 2x cannot be equal to 5. Divide by 2. X cannot be equal to 5 over 2. And if you notice, our restrictions are 2. X cannot be equal to 1, and x cannot be equal to 5 over 2. But in this case, it's not a problem because the value of x is 4, which is fine. Yes, you must do the restriction for each problem. I know it's seems like a lot of work, but it's very quick. Otherwise, you might get some incorrect answers. Let's go through example B. We need to we have a fraction equal to a fraction, so we just cross multiply. We have x multiplied by x plus 2 equals to 3 multiplied by 2x minus 1. Distributive property, we have x squared plus 2x is equal to 6x minus 3. Now, every time that we have a quadratic equation, the biggest exponent is square. We want to be able to make it equal to 0 and see if we can factor it. So let's go and move the 6x to the left and the 3 to the left. They become the opposite. So that will give us x squared minus 4x, right? Minus 6x on both sides. This is going to become a positive 3, and that's equal to 0. We want to be able to factor this out. Now, if we're not able to factor it, then we have to use our quadratic formula, or we can complete the square if you want, because this is even. Factors of x squared are x and x. Factors of 3, they both have to be negative because this is a positive, and when we add them, have to be a negative 4. So it's going to be negative 3 and negative 1. Now to solve, we just use our zero product property. That is x minus 3 is equal to 0, x is equal to 3, or x minus 1 equal to 0, x is equal to 1. We are not done yet because there might be some restrictions that this will make this answer incorrect. So our restrictions, the first one, the first denominator cannot be equal to 0, so x minus 1 cannot be equal to 0. Add 1 on both sides. 2x cannot be equal to 0, to positive 1. That's a 1. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X cannot be equal to 1/2. And if you notice, it's not a problem. Our next restriction is from the second fraction. X plus 2 cannot be equal to 0. the denominator cannot be equal to 0. Minus 2 on both sides, x is equal, cannot be equal to -2. And in this case, it does not affect either one of our solutions. So we have two solutions, x is equal to 3 or x is equal to 1. And yes, you must do your restrictions. Otherwise, you might get some incorrect answers and you will lose all the points.